So with the recent anniversary, we have Swimsuit Ereshkigal, who is a beast class. But why is she a beast class? Well, firstly, you must understand that for time being, proper human history beasts cannot be summoned. Draco was a special situation, not only being from arcade, but also being a part of an event, and technically was not summoned by Chaldea of the mobile FGO timeline. If you know more about that, I have a video on her to check out after this. Secondly, this isn't your normal Eresh. Rather, it's Anki Ereshkigal, aka Space Eresh, who is actually from the Servant universe, which more clearly shows from the second ascension onward. So, just like Space Ishtar, she is a goddess of that verse, and thus, as usually goes with the Servant universe, anything goes, although the out of lore reason is because they wanted her in the previous summer event in 2023, but couldn't fit her storyline and thus moved her forward, and thus she was elevated to the anniversary servant. So what makes her special amongst every other servant in the game currently is that she literally bonds with the master during battle, becoming stronger the more you do it her, going from mate to her destined partner. And this only applies for the player that summons them, because this feature is not applied when being used as a support. This feature was actually thought up by the illustrator of Eresh, and I thought it was a good idea and thus made it a part of her character, which means we could have this for other characters in the future or other gimmicks that are thought up by the illustrators or other members of the team. So while her story has yet to come out yet, we do know some things about her from her voice lines, which do involve some of the Lost World 7 characters, as well as the fact that she mentions their altars, which does make sense as she was also altered in that story, and Lost World 7 had the whole underworld theming. We know that she doesn't condone King Protea altars blatant abuse, as well as her tendency to make people suffer, especially if they're going to be in her underworld. She finds Chris Alter's fashion choice a bit aggressive, which makes sense considering Eresh has always been the more modest type herself. She was actually surprised about how advanced supposedly the South American underworld is after getting a pamphlet from Tezcatlipoca, putting into question how they operate over there. She doesn't want to see Ishtar, mostly because she doesn't want to reveal any of her weaknesses, since if you understand her class advantages, she is weak to Avengers, which is what Space Ishtar is classified as. In her second ascension as the space goddess, she mentions that both her and Space Ishtar are sort of relatives. When comparing herself to Draco, who in later ascensions has obvious horns, which symbolize the authority of a beast, she mentions how those crown-looking protrusions on her head are in fact not a decoration, but her horns, which will change in her next form, where during one of her conversations with Tiamat Larva, she does get praised for how her horns look, which does make her feel good because she feels that her horns are the smallest compared to her other beasts contemporaries, and she's aiming to be the prettiest beast out there. When she hears about the stuff Kiara has done, she considers her so much of a threat that Kiara is deemed the only one fitting of being a moon cancer in her mind. After hearing about all the stuff Space Ishtar went through, she's actually kind of jealous of how complete her final ascension is, and sees her as being a proper heroine, which probably implies that she doesn't see herself as one. She's scared of Kukulkan due to her origins, and feels like, similar to Archetype Earth, she has a princess-like vibe, making them similar. Now, if you're interested in any of these characters, I have videos on most of them, as well as videos talking about some of the other beasts such as Draco or Olga Marie you could check out next.